Hello to the chicos and the chicas. Welcome back, ladies and gents. It's so good to be back on the channel. I apologize for my rather long absence. Unfortunately, I got a fair bit sick last week, and it coincided with the finishing of my Chessable course, which is why you see me in my usual Chessable attire. I'm still doing the final touches on the beginner's e4, e5, so really the waves just crashed above my head, and I just couldn't possibly put out content. Even the next week is going to be a bit shaky, but then we will be back to normal routine. Today, in this video, I'm going to talk about a topic that I briefly covered in a previous video, and that is going to be the how to use the engine and what can we learn from the engine usage. And the reason why I'm doing this video partly is because Martin Justensen, if I'm not mistaken, also known as Seychess on Twitter, has published a very interesting article where he surveyed people about this very question, that do you feel that you learn, that you improve by checking the game analysis / game review function or the computer check function of Lichess and chess.com. And yeah, based on that survey and multiple other things, he wrote a very interesting article, which I shall link in the description. And now I'm going to add my 2 cents to the whole topic. So my general view is that more or less I'm against the idea of using the machine for reviewing your games without other guidance, meaning a coach. And I do think that below a certain rating level, it can actually be rather harmful than useful. And my absolute rule of thumb for this is that the higher you are rated, the more likely that you will benefit from the game review of these online functions. This is as simple as that. It may sound very elitist, but if you think about it, there is a fair degree of logic to it. Now, in order to model a couple of my points, I randomly picked a game on Lichess. It's 1,400 dudes battling it out in a 10-minute game, and I have already asked for the game review function. In fact, I'm gonna show it to you. Yeah, there you go. Why not? Why not? Indeed. So you already see the game review, so I'm going to go through the game, and I'm going to pretend that I am white. This Zero Gambits dude with 1400 who played this game behind the white pieces, and he's playing here an opening against this double fianchetto, plays e5. The engine doesn't bat an eyelid, and already I'm telling you that before reaching move 10, if I was the coach of this guy, I would refuse to look at the rest of the game. Well, not refuse, but I would not look at the rest of the game, because there is just so much stuff that we would need to fix in his game that is already revealed to me in the first 10 moves. It's not even funny. The first one right here is that e5 is a complete misunderstanding of the position, misprioritization. It is played, I guess, in the belief of blunting the bishop, but obviously development was the call of the day. And later on, not so later on, we are going to come across the problem again. Anyway, the game goes on, bishop b7, knight f3, c6, rook b1. Now, this is the point I'm telling you about, that by now, if I am the coach, I'm like, okay, we need to revamp this whole thing. Like, clearly, the wheels are already falling off on move 6, and we don't know what's going on. Now, this is what I'm telling you about why the engine is even harmful on occasions rather than useful, because it tells you that rook b1 is an inaccuracy, not a mistake. I would hammer this as a coach like there was no tomorrow, because this betrays the lack of basic concepts of development center, the things that ought to be done in the early phase of the game, and it's just completely not there. Like, it doesn't exist. And I don't care if this is out here and this is all here. This move tells me that this is not a concept, it's a fluke, and we need to fix it, and I need to hammer it home. The engine is gonna tell you that this is an inaccuracy. And of course, the reason why it says so is because black's play is absolutely awful. And so by playing an absolute lemon, we still lose relatively low amount of centipawns, and therefore it doesn't come up as a mistake. But it is a mistake. It's a really terrible move. I don't care what Stockfish says, it's a terrible move. So right away, we skip through something fundamentally flawed in this person's chess. We potentially don't even make note of the fact that it's an inaccuracy. Then we look at the recommendation, which is h4, which takes another 2 lessons to explain why this is okay, where in fact normally in such situations you would want to develop your bishops and castle. So this is now already entering so many different realms of complexities of chess without a single word of explanation of why what is bad and why what is good is good. Oh my god, like this is, yeah, it's quite a challenge for a 1900, let alone for a 1400. So the game goes on, b5, b4. Again, we get an inaccuracy for this, and the engine tells you bishop d3. So I'm pretty sure that by now you do get a fairly good picture of where I'm going with this. And that is that it's not, you are not gaining relevant information. And if you tell me that this person, by having gone through this game review, would have learned anything, I would be like, nope, absolutely no way. I very much doubt that there is any meaningful learning would take place if I followed all these mistakes and then after bishop e3, inaccuracy, bishop d3. Again, no reasons why, no explanations, nothing there. I can guarantee you that he would be confused out of his wits why bishop d3 is right and bishop e3 isn't, where in fact bishop e3 lines up with the queen. And the answer to that question is that the reason why it's not as accurate, because there will be times when this bishop is going to be sitting in this motif. Now, I want to go to a tactical blunder just to cover the whole spectrum of issues. Lots of mistakes throughout the game. I mean, this is just a blunder, completely unexplainable one, but I was hoping to find one where we missed a tactical opportunity, but that may not have happened actually. Yeah, funnily enough, we're looking at a game where there was no obvious mistake on, you know, cashing in on a tactical idea. But long story short, what I wanted to tell you in the end of this video, which is, I guess, nearing now, that the other problem is that usually the best use, and people think that they again learn from this, is to use the engine to highlight the blunders, right? So that we know where we made a major mistake. Let's see what happens. And once again, in this game, e6 was a blunder. We blundered the pawn there. Rook e6 was hanging. That was a blunder. So once again, I'm looking for a blunder where we missed the tactic. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you find out where you missed the where there was a blunder and you missed an actual opportunity and you take note of that, the chances of learning very limited. And I'll tell you why. Because basically the blunder check is giving you an immediate feedback that your tactics are not on point. That's what that is. It tells you that you're tactically not doing as well as you should. And if for that reason I'm going to stick with this basic rook e6, which can be captured for free. Let's assume it was blundered. So now we are being provided a piece of information we knew before we started the game. Because if you are 1400, with all due respect to all of the 1400s out there, even without touching a piece, you already know that your tactics are not on point, because if it were, you would be 2300, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that the engine here gives you a diagnosis. And that is that, you missed the tactic here. But it doesn't give you then what you really desperately need in order to learn and grow. And that is that, why did you miss it? What can we do to avoid missing that tactic next time? What should we train in order to improve in this area? And now I already covered 3 vitally important questions that a computer check will never give you. And in fact, I very sincerely doubt that if you look up a very basic blunder where you missed out on delivering a mate in 2 or 3, that is going to become a meaningful learning experience, because very often you find that it is the motif that you need to memorize, internalize, pattern recognition, and because of in the next game the piece layout will be slightly different, if the internalization of the pattern didn't happen in that very quick review, almost certainly you are going to miss it in the next one too. And so the issue here, once again, is that you are given information that you almost knew yourself. You didn't know where the blunder was. You knew that you were going to make one or two. Now you saw it, you go through it, and then you think that you learned something, and you may, but in my opinion, the much better way about going about this business is that you go through this with the coach, you find out the blunder, and then you immediately go like, why did we miss it? Is it because your pattern recognition is not on point? Quite possibly. So, okay then, let's go back to Checkmate Patterns Manual by Crafted Alpha and Chessable. Or Mate in Twos, Mate in Threes, whatever it is. Or let's go through the Yusupov book, or whatever. You get my point. Or let's, solve forcing mate puzzles, as many as we can, if that was the reason why we didn't we couldn't find it. Also, it clearly indicates that we need to work on tactics, because that is broken down. Also, we probably didn't look for a tactical idea because we didn't realize the science. So now we're talking about tactical awareness, which is probably one of the most common thing, by the way, between 1000 and 2000, that you simply didn't see the tactic because you didn't look for it, because of the classic silly cliche of no one is tapping me on the shoulder. No, actually, there are 5000 hints on the board, and we need to train you to recognize those hints, such as piece majority in front of the king. The king is weak. There are loose pieces on the board. These are screaming signs. Again, I'm telling you things that the engine's review is never gonna give you. It's never gonna tell you that you missed the tactic because this tactic is there because of this and this and that, and you should have recognized these. No, it's gonna tell you that you blundered, you should have done this. And there is that. So to summarize, I do not think at all that the review functions of the engines are useful for you to learn. It's a very good instant feedback. It can be quite an eye-opener, but as a learning tool, and to even think that I just quickly sift through the mistakes and next time I'm not gonna make that mistake, forget that. Especially, once again, the lower you are on the rating ladder, the more likely that the vast majority of information that the engine is providing for you in a game review is going to be vastly over your head. No disrespect, but it is what it is. And you're not going to be able to internalize and make meaningful conclusions that will then allow you to grow as a player. And this is why I always argue for a coach, because they can immediately pinpoint, if they are worth their salt, the mistakes, the reasons behind the mistakes, and the ways to fix them. And that's 3 different steps that the engine will never give you. And I'm not saying this to promote coaching. I'm saying this because improvement is something that I really care about, and I really want the community to, have access to information that, in my opinion, is useful and meaningful. And I do think that, the overuse of the engine's analysis function is definitely not a very good way to learn. So that's my 2 cents. I'm very curious to read the article myself, because I saw parts of it and it's quite scientific, so I don't know if it's going to contradict what I'm saying or agree with it. But I hope you found this video, guys, useful, and I will be back with the next soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.